Today on Retro For You, I'm taking a calculated risk with this PS3. In the last video, we properly diagnosed this launch backwards compatible PlayStation 3, and I ruled out the HDMI, I ruled out the AV output, and I removed the hard drive to eliminate storage faults. I explained the boot process and I narrowed the failure down to the early graphics initialization. The console does indeed power on. It displays a green light and the fan spins. The disk drive itself seems to power on except disk and eject disk, but no matter what I do, there is no video output. There's no controller sync and no hard drive activity. I have tried the reset, that did do nothing at all. So it strongly suggests the RSX graphics processor is not initializing, and on these early models it's a very common failure point. So today I'm going to attempt a controlled reflow of the RSX chip. This I know is not going to be a permanent fix. It may work, it may not. It's a 50-50 chance. It's more of a diagnostics attempt to confirm whether the solder joints under the chip have fractured. If it boots afterwards, I've confirmed the BGA solder failure. If nothing changes, it might mean the internal chip has actually failed itself. Either way, I know where I stand. So on that note, let's crack on. Plan is to preheat the board here on the actual heat plate to 150 degrees. That should hopefully stop the board from actually warping, hopefully anyway. And then I'm going to use a heat gun and slowly heat it up to about 240 degrees on the top, and then try to keep it around that temperature for around 60 seconds, 40 to 60 seconds. Hopefully that is going to do the job. Then I let it all cool down and hopefully it's going to reflow. Now, to make it more controlled, I've actually bought one of these here, which is a temperature probe, and they plug in the top, and I'm going to tape that to the top of the RSX chip. That's the plan. Will it work or not? Who knows, but we're going to have a go, aren't we? I mean, it's worth taking a chance on this because it's a backwards compatible one. It'll look good under my TV as well. So I'm going to use some Captain tape, because this stuff can withstand high temperatures. We're just going to put a piece across like that on the RSX chip. Then I'm going to get the probe and I'm going to tape that directly onto the top, like so. Now hopefully that will stay put. So what I'm going to do next is to just warm up this heat plate. I'm going to apply a bit of flux around the RSX chip here, try to get underneath it, just to help flow this thing. I think this is going to take some heat. Now the PlayStation boards on these are very, very thick. I could do with some of that other flux, but this should flow under here once it's done. I'm just going to turn on the heat plate. It's set to 160. I know I said 150 before, but it's set at 160, I think. Let me just check. Yeah, it's set. You can see it's flashing 160. And now it'll begin to warm up, and we can actually read the temperature on here is still only 20.3, and it hasn't actually moved. So we'll show you on this camera here. So now with the temperature probe connected, I can actually monitor the temperature a lot better than what I normally would have done, because normally I'd have just whacked a load of heat through it, got the heat gun like this and just said, well, that'll do. So we'll try and do it more controlled now. It's more of a controlled procedure to try and get this up to temperature properly and not stress it too much. Looking as if this is the highest temperature it's going to go, to about 70 degrees on the top. Now it is probably warmer underneath, but I think the fact is that the heat soak with this big heat sink on top of this chip here is taking a lot of the heat away. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead now and move to the reflow stage. I'm going to aim for a surface temperature of around 220 to 230 degrees Celsius, because lead-free solder melts at approximately 217 degrees. So this is the reflow zone. Once you reach that temperature, we'll hold it for around 45 to 60 seconds. No more. I don't wish to cook the board. And we're not going to blast it with a load of heat. We're going to move this slowly. We're going to bring it up, hopefully, in a controlled way and method. Because this is where you can do most damage. If you're careless, you can just go along there, set to blast a load of heat, and you just knacker the whole lot. So I'm going to hopefully be able to watch the temperatures closely with a slow controlled movement and heat. So set the temperature on the heat gun around 250 degrees and medium power, and I'm just going to go and slowly begin to warm this up. And we should be able to see, you can see it is actually increasing temperature now. I'm just going to go in slow circles, just like so.
1 hour later.
We're holding at the 200. Taking a lot of heat, this is. We're almost 220, 230, and then there's the magic number. So we can keep it around here. I'm not touching it at all. I'm not trying to press it down, because if you press it down you can cause a major short underneath. Now that seems to be quite good now, doesn't it? That's sitting where the temperatures are wanting to do it. So now I'm just going to time it around. So it's around the 240 to 250 for a minute. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So that's it. Hopefully that works. Now it might not work. What we've got to do now is we've got to leave it to cool down as a natural process. I'm just going to turn off the preheater as well, and it's just got to cool itself down. I'll probably leave it for an hour and a half just to cool down. So I'm just going to go away for a bit, and we'll be back later once this is all settled down, because we don't want to touch it, we don't want to disturb it. Hopefully that's fixed the issue, but you never know with these things, do you? It's hit and miss, but I try to do it in a controlled method. So wish me luck, guys.
1 eternity later.
Okay, so the board now has cooled down a lot. I can actually touch it now. It's actually been left for about an hour and a half, and it's all cooled down. It's all good, hopefully. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly assemble it to the point where I can test it.
Eventually.
So here we go, moment of truth. I've actually gone and built the whole PlayStation back up. Now the TV is here, I've connected it up. I haven't got the video grabber connected at the moment, but we just want to give it a go. So we'll turn that on. Moment of truth. Let's see if this thing works or not. So here we go. Wish me luck, guys. Okay, there you go. So we got a green light, and we've still got no video. So with no improvement after the controlled reflow that I did, that strongly suggests that the RSX has failed inside. At that point, the only true repair would be a full rebuild or either chip replacement on this machine, which is specialist work and something I can't do in the shed, unfortunately. So unfortunately that didn't work. Now we can't win them all. I wanted to show you what I was doing and how I went along to try and get this working. Now I do have the capacitor kit, so I'll probably try and pick up another one. If you think I went about this the wrong way, then also drop me a comment and let me know. I think I went around it the most methodical way I could. I mean, that's the way it was to me. I diagnosed the video, I diagnosed the CD, the hard drive, etc. And I think that was the best way to do it. So if you're new here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, everybody. It helps the video so much. Next week, we're back on an Amiga. I've got an Amiga with an RGB failure, so I'll be doing that. So If you like A1200s, I've got one like next week that doesn't work on the RGB, so we're gonna go and see if we can fix that. And also it's got some interesting modifications I can show you along the way. Now don't forget to check out my YouTube buddies down below. You got likes of Captain Commodore and 8-Bit Recto Refix. And on that note, I'll see you next time on Recto for You. See you soon, guys. Bye.